Hi everyone. We're back. Babula and I are back for another Astro update, and I believe we've got quite a few things going on in August, haven't we, Babula? So why don't you kick it off and let us know what's happening?
Okay. Well, we do. Yes, it's been a big and busy year, astrologically speaking, and every month seems to bring with it another kind of focus and emphasis. So I think what we might start off with the full moon, of course, because we're right in full moon now, and the exact timing of it for all the eastern states in Australia. Anybody else in Australia around the world will have to adapt times, but for us in the east of Australia, it's at 2 a.m, 1:58 a.m. to be precise, on the Tuesday the 4th.
Tomorrow morning.
So that's, 2 a.m, early morning. And if any of you have been outside in the last couple of nights, the moon has been in the sign of Capricorn the last couple of nights, and she has been, because she's growing and coming to fullness, she's been really bright. And in Capricorn, she's been travelling with Jupiter and Saturn and Pluto, but we can't see Pluto with the naked eye. So if you've been able to get out in the night sky, and I went out and had a look last night, it's stunning. You can see the bright moon with the bright Jupiter and the not quite so bright but still visible Saturn all lined up together. It's stunning when that happens, and we're in a part of the world where we can actually see it. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
So, but with this full moon, the moon changes sign every 2.5 days. Shows so at her fullness, she'll be at 11 degrees of Aquarius. So she's going out of Capricorn into Aquarius, and making the opposition to the Sun in Leo. So we are in the month of Leo. All the Leos are having their birthdays. And so when the Sun is in Leo, it's very strong. The Sun is at home in Leo. It rules or governs the sign of Leo. That's why Leos and people with Leo energy have this big, bright energy, and they love bright colours, yellow, gold, red, hot pink, orange, you name it. These are the colours. It's like the sun. And it's a sign that has to shine its light, like the sun. So just think Sun and Leo. And when we think of Leo, we do think of gold, the crown of royalty, the crown of personal sovereignty, and so on and so on. The sign of Aquarius is opposite Leo, and when the sun's in Leo at this time of the year and the moon comes into opposition, we have the Leo Aquarius full moon. And that's a lot of bright energy, because Aquarius is a sign that has a lot of light as well. It's a different kind of light. It's almost like a cosmic light. It's governed by the planet Uranus, and it's the light of consciousness. We could say Leo is the light of the heart and the light of the heart of the individual. We speak about lion-hearted, the lion that roars and expresses its, self, its individual self, and makes its presence felt, the Leo king of the jungle, the lion. But Aquarius is not symbolized by an animal. In fact, all 3 air signs are the signs in the zodiac that are not represented by animals. All the others are. In the air signs, they're represented by, 2 of them are represented by humans. Gemini is the two twins, and Aquarius is the water bearer, and Libra is actually an inanimate object, the scales of justice. So they don't relate to an animal energy, because the element of air is to do with the mind and the intellect and the mental plane, of thought and knowledge and information and ideas and communication going out on the airways, and so this full moon has this incredible energy of the light of the sun and the brightness of the full moon in the sign of Aquarius, which one level represents the light of consciousness. When we say, you see those cartoons of somebody sitting there and they have this kind of light bulb above their head,
Yeah, I was going to say that.
It's exactly like that with Aquarius. Suddenly you go, oh my God, I've got it. Oh, I've got this brilliant new idea, or I suddenly realized something, you know, bam, something opens up in our mental aspect. And it's as though it just came in from nowhere.
So is it like an aha moment?
Absolutely. Because this is, because Aquarius is actually the sign that we often associate with the genius, you know, like the mad professor, the genius who suddenly just out of nowhere, the solution to the problem suddenly lands and it arrives. And we all have those moments where suddenly we go, oh, got it, I know. Or there's just a complete change in our perception. So I think this full moon that occurs at this time, around about this time every year when the sun's in Leo, when the moon comes into the opposite sign of Aquarius, is a very high energy full moon. All full moons are high energy, let's face it, but this is very, very high energy. These are not quiet, shy energies, Leo and Aquarius. Yeah, they're big energies. And so it can, I mean, and Aquarius is about the people. You know, there are many ways we can look at them. Aquarius is the people. Leo is the ruler, the head of state, the king, the queen, the president. We can also look at that in our own selves as, am I living in my own sovereign state here? You know, that word sovereignty has come up a lot in 2020. And I think this is another part of this, you know, like, am I really fully being myself with my consciousness, my heart, who I am, not who I'm expected to be? You know, we all grow up in a world where there's many expectations on how we're supposed to be and so on. The other big thing about this full moon is that it has a square to the planet Uranus. So we have sun opposite moon, and then over here, the square or the 90-degree angle is the planet Uranus, which rules Aquarius. So this full moon is really charged up with this high octane Uranian electrical energy. So that means that this is an energy now of sudden unexpected changes, shocks. Feels like it's been a year of shocks, but you know, like the unexpected reversals, changes. I mean, everything feels like it's changing on a daily basis this year, that's for sure. And there's something about this particular full moon that's really bringing that in. Like, and you can also use words like agitation, restlessness. It's chaotic. It could be a little kind of crazy in a way.
Or like I was saying earlier, feeling jittery.
Feeling jittery, feeling a bit agitated, a bit, you know, kind of things are feeling unstable. The nervous system might feel like it's being charged up a lot, you know, like you've been plugged into electricity or something. So, you know, that can be challenging. It can also be exciting, and it all depends on how this sits in our own individual birth chart. So for some, it could be a moment of liberation. It could be a moment of shock, revelation to liberation. You know, sometimes we don't free ourselves from something that's had a hold on us, an idea, a situation, a relationship, a job, it can be many things. We kind of stay until something happens that just cracks it open. And it might be a shock, and it might be like, oh my God, you know, that's a lot. And then very quickly, if we're looking closely, we can go, actually, that needed to happen. And now I feel more free. Now I sort of understand something I didn't before, you know. So it's that got that kind of energy, this full moon.
Interesting. Is it with the emotional? With the surprises, because it's a moon. It's more emotional.
Absolutely.
So maybe not so much. Sorry, just fixing my camera. Well, could it happen on the world stage too?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. So, you know, something like this is absolutely in the field, it's in the collective field, like all of humanity, the whole world is experiencing this full moon, square Uranus. So it can, you know, over the years, what I see is that these things that are happening astrologically at any given day or point in time, they'll manifest in many different ways, you know, all over the place. So certainly, like I would be saying things like stay tuned.
Yeah.
You know, if you're someone who follows the news, like don't be surprised if there's like more revelations, surprises, upheaval, chaos. But remember, it's a full moon. It's kind of passing through for a few days. It's not a configuration that's in place for the whole year. There's plenty else in place for the whole year. This is for a few days. So it's like riding the winds of change, which is the theme of the year, really.
Yeah.
And because that is a theme of the year, I think this full moon has a lot of kind of significance as well, you know.
So are you thinking it wouldn't be as revolutionary as we might ordinarily see with that Uranian energy, or could it be on the world stage? I mean,
it could be, because there's a lot of Mars and Aries activation going on now, which is not connected to this full moon, but it's sort of going on in another part of the zodiac, and that's and you put these things together, and it certainly could trigger, because Uranus, ruler of Aquarius, is the planet of rebellion against oppression and status quo and control and so on. You know, it wants to push against and rebel. And Mars, you know, with all that Mars Aries energy, things can get, you know, quite volatile. So there can potentially be a bit of volatility with this. And look, if we just look at our own personal lives and the lives of people around us that we know, family and so on, have a look, you know, like things are moving. Things are happening, with full moons too, things come to a peak. You know, what maybe was set in motion 2 weeks ago at the new moon at the end of Cancer that we spoke about last time. When the full moon comes, that energy of that new moon 2 weeks prior comes to a peak. The moon is now full. She's grown from nothing, you could say, from darkness, a little bit every night, a little bigger and bigger. Now she's full. You know, this is like the pregnant woman, completely full and about to give birth. And then, you know, as the days follow the full moon, the light of the moon begins to lessen and diminish and then disappears altogether in the next new moon phase. So this is the peak time, and because the moon does represent our emotions and our bodies and our hormones and the flow of water and the sap in the trees and the oak, like everything's on full bore energy, you know, everything's flowing fully. And great time for people who are creative, to use our creative intelligence, for people who are involved in any kind of creative activity. You know, whether you're in lockdown or not, it doesn't have to stop us being creative. In fact, often for people who find themselves in a situation like that, it can be an opportunity to explore that because they've got time.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the Renaissance when that happened, all that creativity that sort of bubbled up.
That's right.
At that time, yeah.
That's right. Because, you know, in our normal life, we're kind of rushing around it, you know, constantly doing, and this can, for many, be an opportunity. And I'm hearing around me some people saying that, like, oh God, I'm doing things I've been wanting to do for years because now I've got the space and time. Yeah. So this can be, something else I'll say about it in a minute too. This can be a really wonderful energy for those who are kind of in alignment and in attunement with Uranian Leo kind of energy. If you're naturally inclined to that kind of energy, you're going to be going, wow, you know. But if you're not, this might be a little bit, it could at times feel a bit jarring,
Yeah.
you know. And I've spoken of this before with Aquarius and Uranus. It's this planet and sign govern our nervous system and the electrical circuits in our brain and throughout our body. So it can really charge that up, and it can, full moons, we commonly have disturbed sleep. I often find it's a couple of days after the full moon. I don't know why my body seems to react a few days later, but certainly with the Uranian full moon, you know, disruption of sleep, unexpected messages, things happening out of the blue, and kind of have to ride the wave in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it a bit like when, like the death of Princess Diana and the 9/11, that sort of energy?
Yes, it can be on the world stage. It can be like those two events were massive shocks, and we've had a massive shock this year as well that sort of keeps on coming in doses, you know, like more and more in different ways. And we all have different points of view about all of that, and people are responding in different ways and so on. But yeah, it's not a life carries on as normal kind of year.
No.
And,
So it's like, this is like rolling, shocking energy that you don't get a chance to stop and get a breather.
no, it can absolutely feel like that. Absolutely. And the antidote, if there is an antidote, like I always want to look to nature and our bodies for when we're just feeling like, oh God, it's all a bit much. We need to ground ourselves, like literally. Whether you do that in meditation by bringing your attention and awareness down into the body and the feet, and really you might have to really work at it because the energy is taking us up at the moment.
Yeah.
Like to really do that. But just go and sit outside, you know, talk to the trees, walk on the ground, take some time to stop, go and lie in the grass if you can. Like that's the earthing, grounding counterbalance to this kind of high energy. Yeah. I mean, I quite enjoy this energy because I'm a bit that way inclined myself anyway, but I do know it can feel very disorienting sometimes for people. I do understand that.
Yeah, well, I have Aquarius in the first house, so I'm quite familiar with this sort of energy.
Yes.
But particularly at the moment, it feels like it's just, yeah, I'm not as familiar. I'm not as settled with it.
Yes, not as settled, yes. And that's a kind of a reflection on the year as a whole in many ways, isn't it?
Yeah, because normally you have time to process things.
That's right. No, it's not like that this year, is it? It's pretty much at breakneck speed day by day. The other thing is that, you know, Aquarius and Uranus, the fact that Uranus squeezes full moon is very significant because you don't always get other planets like coming in on the full moon story, particularly such a powerful one like Uranus. But the other thing is that this energy governs is technology and the internet and so on. And in the last few days, there has been a lot of shockwaves going on through social media and so on, which has been extremely interesting. And I think we're going to see more of that. You know, and of course, the other thing about a full moon is that you've got the sun and the moon in a polarity. They're kind of ultimately trying to find balance. You know, that these two lights are trying to find balance. And there's Uranus, the great disruptor, not really helping out too much with that balancing act.
No, not at all.
So we have to become kind of, this just occurred to me. I love it when we talk because things just pop in as I'm talking. It's a bit like a high wire balance act. You know, it really is. So self-care is really important. We've just come out of the Cancerian month where that was a really important focus and theme, but it is. It so is, you know. And Leo reminds us it's about the individual, it's about you and the collective, and to keep bringing our focus back here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. So I think think we should talk about Aries. I was about to say it behooves us, just because I just like the word behooves. It behooves us to have a look at Aries.
So do I.
I think it's a great word.
I use that word.
Yeah, and I like to use it when I can. It's just an enjoyable word somehow. So there is a lot going on in the sign of Aries. And Chiron is in Aries. Chiron moved into Aries 2 years ago and will be there for another 5 or 6 years. And that's a really important story over this period of time, as Chiron represents the wounded healer, our wounding, themes of illness and the ways we feel like just not right. And in the collective field, it's kind of what's not right and what needs our attention and what needs healing and what needs consciousness brought to bear on this. And in Aries, it's got a lot to do with what we could call the wounded masculine, you know, because Aries does represent the masculine principle and the masculine spirit, which of course includes men, but it's also that energy in women, in everybody.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's a fire cardinal. It's a sign that has tremendous fiery energy and impulse, and it's immediate and it's fast and it doesn't want to wait and it's impatient, and it's ruled by the planet Mars, the god of war. You know, it's hot-blooded sort of an energy. And Mars is now in Aries, and that's important because Mars normally changes sign every 6 weeks. No, sorry, every 2 months, every 8 weeks. But now he's in Aries for nearly 7 months because he's going to do a retrograde phase. And when we get to that, we'll definitely be talking more about that. So it's really significant that Mars is now very empowered in his own sign for an extra long time. And he's going to be going retrograde for 10 weeks. That will start in September. And he's already activated the Chiron. Right now he's very close to the Black Moon Lilith, and she's very much about the oppression and control of the feminine, which is women. As I see it, women, nature herself, we see nature, you know, Mother Earth, Gaia, Pachamama, you know, nature as feminine. Our bodies are essentially feminine. Everyone's essentially, you know, made of the earth. And also, to me, it includes the darker skinned races of the world and the indigenous peoples. I include that all in the feminine principle and how on this planet for so long that has been repressed, denied, abused, controlled, dominated, etc., etc. So the Black Moon Lilith has got a lot to do with that theme, and there's a whole story about that, but and how when we begin to heal that energy and reconnect with the power of the feminine, which is not about power over, it's just our own inner power, and we begin to sort of reject that kind of oppression and control, we come into something that's a lot stronger. And she's in Aries for pretty much all this year until October, and then she'll move into Taurus. So we've got Mars with the Black Moon Lilith at the moment, and then we've also got Eris, this great goddess, Greek Roman goddess of discord and chaos.
Great.
the troublemaker, you know, who actually, I don't know whether I've spoken of this before, but who, you know, by her very interesting actions to reveal hidden truths, brought about the Trojan War and the sacking of Troy. So she moves very, very slowly. She's way out there in our solar system, way out past Pluto. So she's been in Aries since about the 1920s.
Wow, yeah.
And she's an important player in the whole story this year with the planets in Capricorn. So we have Chiron, Mars, Black Moon, and Eris, all strongly activated now in the sign of Aries.
Mm.
And some people, and you can see it, you know, you can see it really strong in the world around us. And whatever our opinions are about this, I'm speaking astrologically now. A week or so ago, in the last days, there's been a group of doctors in America, you know, who stood up on the steps of at Washington there and spoke out. And what I saw, and the main spokespeople were women. There was a group of them. They were men, but it was the women who were speaking.
Yeah.
And they were on fire and full of passion and commitment to wanting to heal people. And so I'm only speaking astrological here. I'm not expressing an opinion because these things are hot potatoes, so I'll leave that alone. But astrologically, what I was seeing was Mars, Black Moon, Lilith in action.
Mm.
You know, and you could see this frustration of, we are putting our jobs on the line, maybe even our lives on the line, and we must speak. You know, so I was just seeing tremendous courage. And that's an expression. And there's a lot going on around the world. And there's also a lot of polarization. There are battles everywhere. There are many battle fronts going on. And this is the Aries energy. So my invitation is, we can see it playing out in the world around us, for all of us to look inside ourselves. You know, in what ways am I in battle in here? And what's going on in my relationships? You know, some relationships will be experiencing a lot of conflict and you know, locking of horns. You know, this is the sign that's ruled by the ram. And if you've seen rams, male rams go for each other during the rutting season, it's head down. And Aries are also the head. You know, I love astrology. Like, everything just works together. Aries is the head, and rams have these extra thick skulls because, boy, they need it.
Yes.
They do that, and at full force. You know, they're back here and they take a running and crash.
Yes.
And you know, some of them would die in that battle, because if your head cracks open, that's it, you're done for.
That's right. And I've seen men who get in fights who will hit the other people with their head. And I think, if I did that, I'd probably pass out. You know?
Me too. I know.
But you know, you're talking about battles. I mean, battles are different to the war, aren't they? There's sort of like a subgroup with the war that's going on, and we're seeing a lot of that. The war is the umbrella, and you've got the battles underneath.
That's right. There's all these different battle fronts going on everywhere, and some of them are quite big and quite important in terms of the world. And I think there's a lot going on that we don't see and don't know as well behind the scenes.
Mm.
But there's also, you know, some that we can kind of see. But yeah, it's even things that are going on in the world. They're going on everywhere. They're going on in our own lives and in our own being. You know, and you know, arguments. You know, Mars, Aries, like just having an argument and a disagreement. It doesn't have to be a full-scale battle, but just, you know, it's conflict.
Yes.
Disagreement. Wanting to win, wanting to be on top, you know, wanting to win the argument. Because over in Libra, the opposite sign of Aries, you have a discussion, and the desire in Libra is for the outcome to be win-win, to be a negotiation, an agreement. But in Aries, no, it's actually a battle so that there is a victor.
Yes.
You know?
In that too, I'm just thinking about Mars in Aries. It's, you know, people go to war, well, maybe not today, but in times gone by, because they're passionate about their belief in something. But the opposite of that is the brutishness of it, isn't it?
Exactly.
Mm.
That's exactly right. And so the planet Mars, which rules Aries, is very much like that. It can be just the aggressive thug.
Yeah.
You know, and someone who just loves to fight, and if there isn't one, he'll create one. You know, I've seen people do that. I've actually seen Aries sometimes do that, and it can be quite unconscious, like kind of stir up a bit of an argument, a confrontation, a battle for no good reason other than, okay, now I can do my Aries thing. I've got a battle to get into. You know?
I've seen that too.
Yes. Now, I'm not saying that's always a bad thing at all, because the thing about Mars energy is that I'm right in this now because I'm actually preparing a 3-part online webinar, and that starts on the full moon. And so I'm really, and I'm doing this because of these energies this year, and I'm doing it also because these are not easy energies for us to live. And, you know, very often, particularly women, tend to reject all that Aries Mars energy, reject it because it seems too aggressive and too dominating. But actually, we all have Mars in our chart, the planet Mars, and we all have Aries somewhere in our chart. Even if it's got no planets in it, Aries still exists.
Yeah.
And we've all got Mars, and we need to be able to acknowledge and meet and heal any wounds around that energy, because without Mars energy, we become weakened, we become apathetic, we become afraid to stand up for ourselves. And these are important things for women. You know, we're afraid to really claim our fire because we might have been programmed that, you know, girls don't do that.
Yeah. So could you see that playing out with something like if Mars was conjunct, I don't know, Saturn or something like that? So it's sort of become a bit wimpy.
It's not actually wimpy when it's conjunct Saturn. It's actually very strong, but it's very controlled.
Controlled, yeah.
And very determined, you know. But Mars to Neptune,
Oh, yes, yeah.
yeah, might be kind of like, here's an image. I've often spoken this way, and sometimes in the past I've run experiential astrology workshops where I put the circle on the floor, and if someone stands in their Mars, say in Pisces or aspecting Neptune, it's like the Mars warrior holds the sword. The sword is a really potent symbol, an emblem for Aries and Mars. This is the warrior that has to hold the sword with a very light grip. It's still a sword, and there may be a battle, but this is more about surrendering to what some people might call the higher will. Like, this isn't about my will, it's about thy will. Like, I'm here as a vehicle to be used for this situation. It's not it's not force. Yeah. Whereas sometimes Mars can be used as an absolute force. And many of us have seen that, and some have been on the receiving end of that, you know. So it's like with everything in astrology, you can look at every placement and every possible placement of planets and signs in a negative way and a positive way, and we're always looking at how we can raise the vibration of that to its best potential, you know. And that might mean going through a period of tremendous work and transformation and healing to sort of transmute that energy into a higher level, you could say. And Mars is exactly the same. You know, Mars at its best is like the spiritual warrior with the sword of light, who's ready to go into a necessary battle for the good of all, you know, for the people, for example. Or he becomes a protector, defender of the home, of the family, of the children.
Yes.
You know, like sometimes that's simply required. That simply must happen because of the way things are on the planet. So it's really important to make that point, because it can be very easy to have a very negative attitude about Mars, and it's, you know, I think it's a really important distinction to understand that we do need to be able to use our Mars energy well, men and women both.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a really potent time for us all, and one of the expressions of this is that we might find ourselves getting really like heated up and angry and frustrated. Like there's a lot of frustration because of lockdowns, because of loss of jobs, because of what's going to happen to my business. It's already gone, or is it going to survive? Because, you know, of elderly parents and grandparents in homes and you can't get to see them, and they're dying alone, and all of these, and fear about the virus, and all of these things are causing a lot of agitation and frustration. You know, told to do this and told to do that, and whether you're willing to do those things or you're not. I think that frustration is coming from these planets in Aries making these squares to all the planets in Capricorn. Like it's a kind of stalemate. you know, which results in tremendous. There's your Mars and Saturn. Mars square Saturn, frustration.
Yeah.
You know, Mars in Aries just wants to go, and here's the Saturn saying,
Yeah.
you can't do what you want.
Yeah, and there's times when I go out into the world and into various stores, and your markings are on the ground. You have to go this direction, go in this door and out that exit, and stand so far apart. And there's marks on the ground. And you're constantly reminded that you're restricted.
That's right.
It's a physical reminder that you're restricted.
That's right.
Yeah, and I think I find myself getting frustrated with that. I think, oh gosh,
I know, because we used to just wander around freely, and that's a sense of I just do it. Aries is the sign of just do it.
Yeah.
So the Aries energy is tremendously frustrated by this, but there is a way we can work within this, and that is whatever our opinion is. And I know there's a lot of polarization of opinion, that's getting stronger and stronger and stronger, even extreme in some ways. I'm putting aside that side of it. The fact remains, this is happening. Yeah. Whatever our opinion is, this is the reality of it. How can I, within these constraints, make the best of this for me, for my family, them? Because I truly believe there is always something good that can come out of every situation if we're willing to see that there is always a possibility. Even somebody in a prison cell, locked in a prison cell for the rest of their life, on an inner level, there is the possibility, if they are so inclined, to do tremendous inner growth. I used to know a man when I lived in WA years ago, this amazing spiritual teacher, meditator, psychologist, group leader, an extraordinary man. I think he's still alive and in his 90s now, full of character. He used to go into the Fremantle prison and just teach the prisoners how to meditate and how to be present and how to just be with themselves, and to meditate and make the most of the situation they find themselves in. So that's what I'm kind of speaking of here. There is always an opportunity, whatever the situation, whatever our opinion of it, there's something that we can do, address, meet, that can, in the long run, be of benefit.
Yeah, I think that's really hard for people who are who can't give up payments on their homes, for example.
Absolutely.
And then lose their homes. That's really, it's challenging to see the silver lining of that.
Very challenging, and I don't mean to lessen those kinds of real struggles. I mean, I know someone who's already facing, a couple who are actually facing the possibility of that. So absolutely, these are very real challenges, and somehow on a deeper soul level there is always a way through, and the possibility of life on the other side of it that we don't see yet. So it's like working with the reality of the constraints. And see, in Aries says make a decision. If we're indecisive, it's not helpful. Aries is like, just do it, make a decision, move forward. So that might be for some, okay, this is the reality, we have to make a decision.
Yes. There's a lot of facing up to situations, isn't there, going on?
Absolutely. A lot of facing up to situations going on.
And yet there are people on the planet, or who have been on the planet, I'm just thinking, while I was saying that, I was thinking about Peace Pilgrim, who walked across the United States, I think it was, wasn't it?
He did.
A few times. And just being guided by a higher power and trusting.
That's right.
So that's a remarkable level of trust and in something higher than ourselves on this planet. So in some way we're sort of challenged to connect with that in a deeper level, aren't we?
We are. And she was not young.
No.
And what I think she pushed a cart, wasn't it? She had a cart.
I can't quite remember now.
I think it was a cart with all, you know, everything she had was in that cart. It wouldn't have been heavy because she wasn't a young woman,
No.
and she did it alone. But you know, people would walk with her. She became quite
Yeah.
famous. People can do extraordinary things, and I think that's another thing about this Aries Capricorn energy. As a combination, it can actually show us how strong we actually are, how much grit we actually have, how much capacity we have to deal with what is put in front of us and make choices and just get on with it. You know,
Yeah.
that's inside all of us, and it's not until we're tested. And this is a very testing time.
Yeah.
And I think testing is a very good word for this situation. You know?
And it reminds me of the pioneers, you know, the
Yes,
Aries energy is very pioneering, and
very.
in Capricorn, or with that Capricorn energy, it's like, what can I do? What are my limits in this material reality? You know,
That's
because
right.
when the pioneers were traveling, they didn't carry everything with them that was going to help when things didn't work or they couldn't find stuff. They just had to utilize what was around them, you know. So it's in that way, it's sort of you're drawing on that Aquarian energy too, which is quite innovative.
That's right.
You know, thinking outside the box.
That's right.
And then the Aries is sort of stimulating that, and in that Capricorn energy together is like in the material reality, you know. So it's very interesting to see those energies together.
It really is, and it's a very strong square between those two signs. And you're absolutely right. Aries is the pioneering spirit, that bravely that, you know, goes where no man or woman has been before, and blazes new trails. That's actually what Aries is really all about. It's about the birthing of the new, and Capricorn, on one level, is about the solidification of the old. You know, and I'm not speaking about male here, I'm speaking about the patriarchal order, not specifically about men, but it's the patriarchal order and system, and the old guard that's kind of become solid and controlled and controlling everything. And over here you've got the Aries energy, which is the kind of, this is another way to look at it, that warrior energy wanting to break out of the walled citadel, you know, and blaze a new trail, and yeah, and move forward into something very new. So I think that's an invitation for us all, and I think many people are already seeing, like, I'm doing things this year. I'm doing this online astrology. I thought, oh, I'm not going to do that. I'm running webinars online, but no, I like having people come to the house. I like doing, you know, live workshops with groups of people. I love doing that. And I started doing them online. It's fantastic. So, you know, we're all like, what new things are we doing this year? And how fantastic, how fabulous is that?
Yes.
Because circumstances have kind of challenged us to do that.
Yeah.
It's good.
Very interesting. Is there anything else in store for us this month?
Well, I wanted to come and have a little bit of a look at Venus, because we spoke a lot about Venus in the preceding months, because like Mars, you know, she a while ago spent a period of time in retrograde motion, so has spent an unusually long time in Gemini. Normally she'd whiz through a sign in about 4 weeks. Well, she spent a good nearly 3 months in Gemini, and she's just coming towards the end of Gemini now. So she hasn't actually quite finished that piece in Gemini, the sign of communication and, you know, information and knowledge and so on. But over this coming week, she definitely will. In fact, by the next time that we meet, she will be well and truly in the sign of Cancer. So she's got about another week to go in the sign of Gemini, and that will really complete her important story in the sign of Gemini. Mercury, who's also recently finished a retrograde phase in Cancer, has come out of what we call the shadow period. He's absolutely completed that retrograde phase and is coming to the end of Cancer. So over the next days, he's going to leave Cancer. So we've got these two fast planets that are normally moving fast coming out of their quite important retrograde periods and about to change sign and really move on, having done their work. So I just wanted to mention that. So Mercury will leave Cancer and come into Leo in these next days, joining the Sun, which again brings in more of that Leo energy, and Venus will finally move out of Gemini and go into the sign of Cancer. So we're not fully out of the Cancerian energy yet with Venus coming in there, which is also a really important message, I think, about self-love and self-care. Venus, the goddess of love and relationship, really calling us to have a bit of care in our relationships. Mars is like a full bore at the moment, but with Venus in Cancer, important to remember a bit of softness, and nurture of self and others. Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, it is. Venus is lovely in Cancer. It's like really tender-hearted mother love, home and nurture and family. It's lovely.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Yes. The nodes, and earlier, some time ago, we spoke about the nodal axis changing sign, which they do every 18 months. So the nodes and the eclipses came out of Capricorn, Cancer, and the nodes are now in Sagittarius, Gemini. And currently, the South Node is at 28 degrees of Sagittarius, which happens to be the galactic center. So over these next few weeks, that South Node is in alignment with the galactic center. So from Earth, when we look, and Earth is just this little bitty planet in this little bitty solar system on the kind of outskirts of this enormous, galaxy that we live in, amongst, one of how many millions of galaxies. When you put it in that context, it's phenomenal scale. But from Earth, when we look at the center of our galaxy, it points, when we look at through the eyes of the zodiac, it points to this 27, 28 degrees of Sagittarius. And so it's quite a potent, powerful position. Actually, my two grandparents, my mother's parents, were both born with their sun at this degree. That's extraordinary. I think their birthdays were a day apart or something. They did not get on. That was not a marriage that lasted, but it's very interesting that they were right, and they were two very, very strong individuals. It was not destined to go well, I think. Not that same signs can't work. Sometimes it works beautifully, but in this case, it absolutely didn't. And Sagittarius, it's such a fiery, independent kind of sign. So I find that really interesting, and the South Node has got a lot to do with the past. And Sagittarius, we've touched on this before, is about the media. A lot of things are going on in the media behind it, in front of the scenes. The issues around, truth. What is truth? We've spoken of this before. Gemini, Sagittarius, the information we're receiving or researching or being told from whatever source and direction, and there's so much of it, and so much of it seems to be constantly changing. How do we sift through all of that and make sense of it all? So I think this is quite potent. And of course, as we come to the lead up to a major, hugely important election in the United States, things are getting very crazy. And I think a lot of what's going on over there currently and in the media and alternative media can be seen in many contexts, but particularly in the context of a lead up to an election at a time such as now. So, yes, so I just wanted to mention that, the galactic center is quite strong at the moment. Yeah.
So when you talk about the galactic center, how does that affect like when you have that opening up to the galactic center, how does that affect people in or certain signs, or what does it mean exactly?
I think if someone has, say, their sun or ascendant or something significant at that degree or really close to that degree, I think there's a certain intensity to that degree, the potency to that degree, and it can represent that part of you in this lifetime. There's a really there's something very deep and powerful about it, and it's a degree that changes very, very slowly over long periods of time. So it's pretty stable at that degree, for significant periods of time. I just think it has a real, and because it's the centre, there's something about it that feels quite penetrating. Are we going to be able to penetrate right to the core of this to get to the essence of it? We're not sort of fluffing around the outsides of it. We're wanting to, the arrow of Sagittarius, we're wanting to aim our arrow at this degree right at the heart of it, right at the centre of it, and get to the absolute truth. Not just all these smoke screen, because there's a lot of smoke screening going on.
Yeah.
A lot of diversions in so many directions. It's very confusing, even for people who are, watching and paying attention. It's just, changing so quickly.
Yeah, so it sort of opens up, does it, to get
Yes.
that clarity and
Yes.
that truth?
Yes, it can. I think so, and I think it can really intensify the almost a sense of urgency about that.
Uh-huh.
And so, people with that degree, strong in their chart in some way, and because this is where the South Node is now, I do feel that that's a big part of, there is an intensity, there is a sense of emergency, like things are feeling quite critical at the moment.
Mm-hmm. So with that South Node, how does that play out for people?
Well, it's to do with the past. You see, past, and truths that have been hidden on a personal level. Like for some people, it might be something like, I just found out something about my family, or my family history. Like, oh my God, I never knew that before, and now it's putting pieces in place for me. It might be something like that in the world. It could be information being revealed about things that have gone on in the past, perhaps for a long time, coming to light.
Reminds me of that TV show, Who Do You Think You Are? Where they do the
Indeed.
ancestry. Yes.
It's really powerful. That's the journey those people go on very often, isn't it?
Very much, yeah.
And very often they discover something that has a profound meaning for them.
Yes, yeah.
That, it's like a missing piece of information that's making sense of something about themselves.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think on the world stage that can also be true, like a revelation about something. And Sagittarius has also got quite a lot to do with the law, and the lawgivers and so on, and judgments made in law. So, yeah, that can be. I wanted to also bring in something about Leo here before we close. I mentioned it briefly to you earlier. In the month of Leo, the sign of the lion, there's a period of about a week or two when, as the sun in Leo is rising up in the eastern sky in the morning, it's actually aligned with a fixed star called Sirius, and many people will have heard of Sirius. And this is called the heliacal rising of Sirius. And all that heliac means, when a planet or when a star has its heliac rising, it means it's rising in the east, aligned with the sun in whatever sign that might be. At the moment, the sun's in Leo. Because Helios, think of the sun god Helios. That's a way to sort of remember, what the hell does heliacal mean? It's related to the sun. So Sirius is a very bright and quite important star in terms of the stars and constellations. And every year when this occurs, there's a date, the 8th of the 8th, that is referred to as the Lion's Gate in certain esoteric spiritual circles. On the 8th of the 8th, every year when the sun is in Leo and Sirius is rising with the sun, there's this gateway that is said to open, cosmically, we could say. And it's the Lion's Gate. And if anyone wanted to research, if this has kind of sparked anybody's interest, just Google, Lion's Gate 2020. It occurs every year, but many people are speaking about it as being extremely significant and important this year, given everything that's happening. This is such a powerful, important year for the world. And that it can be potentially a real opening and portal for people if they want to tune in. In fact, I would say even now over this coming week, in the last week and this week, this energy is really, it's already sort of opened, but there's a real portal that opens on the 8th of the 8th. And there are different groups who will be meditating together online around the world. And if someone's inclined to want to tune into that, is curious, just have a look, check it out. I've shared it. Go on.
I was going to say, what's the expectation of it then?
Well, I'm always wary about expectations because I think everyone can have their own experience, and somebody might say, yeah, I think I'll sit and meditate, and maybe you don't experience very much, or maybe in the coming days you start to notice something, So, I know there are groups who are offering everyone to join at a certain times. It might be a guided visualization or something that can be really helpful. I know there's another one where we're just invited to sit at exactly the same time all around the world, and I'm going to do that one, like just to sit in silence, literally. There's no video, there's no recording, and it's at 4 o'clock in the morning on the Sunday morning here. And I'm not one that's inclined, honestly, in winter to get myself out of bed at 4 o'clock in the morning, but I am actually going to set my alarm for this. And because it's Sunday, I might get a chance then to go back to bed, but, but you also don't have to do that, even just over the weekend. It's next weekend, this coming weekend, the Saturday and the Sunday, that Lion's Gate energy is open. If you are someone who likes to tune in, who likes to meditate, just be aware that there's a certain potency related to the light, Leo, the sun, the lion, and themes around, sovereignty. And also, I'll throw this in too, getting a little cosmic here, but that's okay, we're allowed, I think. We have this comet coming, close to the Earth called Neowise, which is an extraordinary name, actually, if you look at it in a certain way. And some are saying that it's the combination of this comet Neowise and the Lion's Gate that is kind of opening quite a powerful stream of energy from the cosmos in a very, very positive way, in a very helpful way, whatever that might mean. And I don't really know what that might mean at all. I don't know what I might experience. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of interested and curious and feel like, yeah, I want to be a part of that, whatever that might mean. Yeah. So I just thought I'd offer that if anyone's curious or interested and hadn't heard of it, and go, oh, that's interesting, I might have a look at it. Yeah. And if not, just put it away. It's okay.
Well, I'll be thinking about you while I'm cuddled up under my doona.
Yes, I know. It's funny though, sometimes I actually do wake up around that time and then go back to sleep or read for a while. So it may not be too difficult for me, but if I'm fast asleep, I'm not going to be happy about that alarm going off, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Oh, you've got to be ready to meet the aliens. You never know.
You never know. My God, with the year we're having, I'm open to anything now. Everything's being turned on its head. I'm just open to anything and everything.
Yeah. It feels like this, although there's, Mars in Aries and this full moon, it doesn't feel as heavy as
No,
what it's been.
that's very true.
Mm.
Yes.
So I'm hoping we can stay on the light side for the rest of the year and for a while
Yes.
anyway.
And even though, you know, some parts of Australia and the world are having quite strong, you know, lockdowns and second waves and so on, yeah, I think if we can, I think it's so, and this is where the Leo energy comes in. It is so important to remember for each and every one of us that if we give too much energy to the awfulness of the situation, it will just pull us down, and that's not helpful. We're all one piece of light in the whole network of light around the planet and on the planet, and it's important that we face up to what's happening. This is how I see it. We need to understand and acknowledge what's happening, whatever way we do, and at the same time remember we all have the capacity to experience joy and appreciate the goodness of the day or whatever's there for us, you know, and that's where we need to really put our focus. That's how I see it. I think it's critical for our own well-being, but I think also for the collective field, we need to remember that we're not powerless on so many levels, you know, and that we need to keep shining our light. And I think that's a big part of what this Leo time is, and that Lion's Gate is about too, you know, the power of the individual and our own sovereignty and light. You know, put your crown on, guys. You know, girls, men, put the crown on, you know. Cover it in jewels and let it shine. It's got that kind of, and it's also like Leo is a sign of joy and happiness and play and fun like a child. So as challenging as things are, every day there's opportunity, you know, to have a bit of a laugh and have fun and put some wonderful music on, dance around the house, and, you know, all of that can happen as well.
Yeah. And tap into that confidence that Leo gives us too.
The confidence, yes.
Yeah, that we have the innate skills to navigate things that we think we can't.
We do. We humans are amazing.
Yeah, we're so resilient.
We're so incredible, so creative. And the heart, the human heart, which is Leo. Leo is the heart. It's the actual physical heart in our bodies. And it's also the light of the heart, you know. And so when we're connected with our heart, we all feel better. Everything feels better when we can actually, and even if we need to stop, put our hands at our heart so that it helps us to feel it, because we all go up into our heads. And just sit there and just kind of soften and melt into the heart. Everything feels good. Everything feels good. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much again for lots of insights. And
a pleasure. Heads up, yes.
Yes, and look out for that side swipe and step to your right.
That's right. And remember to enjoy as well as, you know, whatever the challenges are, even just moments of joy. And it's okay to laugh and have fun in the midst of all of this. Yeah.
So we'll be back in another 2 weeks to talk about that new moon in Leo.
In Leo, exactly. That's right.
So enjoy till then, and we'll see you again soon, everyone. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.